So, good afternoon, everybody. There is hot Tuesday in Žilina, so I would like to welcome you in this hot day here in this beautiful place, and I would like to welcome our online attendees. I am very happy that we can host this international event, Funding Horizons, as a part of our CEE Startup Network. I would like to, my name is Vlasto Kocián and I am CEO of Innovation Center in Novia, and I would like to introduce our partners, ecosystem partners, CEE Startup Wrocław and Silesian Startup Foundation. We build our ecosystem, and the most information give you our next speaker. And especially I would like to appreciate helping Žilina self-governing region that provide us this beautiful cafe in this historical building, new synagogue. Before we start, I want to announce a few changes in our program. Our first guest, Pavel Csank, will come later. So Ms. Adela Hradilova will have first few words about CEE Startup Network. And second change will be that our keynote speaker, Vlasto Kocián, cannot come today. So we have alternative keynote speech from Kristel from Czech Founders VC. And I'm convinced that it will be very interesting for all founders and startups. So let's start now, and I would like to invite Adela Hradilova, CEO of MSIC, who will introduce our ecosystem.
Thank you very much. This is the biggest challenge, 3 things and just 2 hands. But I will try. So good afternoon, everyone. As I was already introduced, I started working as the CEO of MSIC back in July this year, so I'm quite newcomer to this role, but I'm very happy and it's a great honor to be here with you today and introduce CEE Startup Network to you. But before I will start doing so, I have a few facts about CEE. Okay, it's me. You see me, so I can skip that slide. My colleagues prepared very interesting information about the CEE region, Central and East European region. I think we all tend to be very, very pessimistic when we talk about our region, but I think we shouldn't be so pessimistic. I think there is a hope for optimism here as well regarding the startup ecosystem. As you can see, there is a quite huge number of combined enterprise value of CEE startups. If I'm right, it's 230 billion euros, so I think it's quite amazing. We have more than 26,000 startups in our region, which is, I would say, very good. And 7,000 of them is supported by venture capital. Again, I think it's more than a third, so again, it's quite a good number. And you can see 5 top hubs, startup hubs in Central and Eastern European region, be it Tallinn, Vilnius, Warsaw, Sofia, and Prague. And this might reply to your questions why we created CEE Startup Network, because neither Žilina, nor Ostrava, nor Wrocław, Katowice, or Kraków are among these top 5, and we hope we will be part of it in a few years. And again, I think this is not surprising, because we are now living in the area of AI and medtech and climate problems with our climate. So we have a lot of startups which are focusing on AI and climate, dealing with climate change. So these were some interesting information about the CEE region, and now why we created, or we are trying to create CEE Startup Network. first, as I already said, we would like to be among top 5. The second, I think we are living in a global world where one region is far too small, so we need to join forces and create something bigger. And I think it's natural that the Poland, Slovakia and Czechia started the cooperation. And we would like to really help early stage startups because we still don't have enough, especially in Czechia. I just read recently some statistics and we have only 131 startups per 1,000 inhabitants, I think. So, we are very far behind the average of the European Union, so we still have quite a lot of work ahead of us. I know that Prague is quite vibrant ecosystem, but Ostrava is still not, and we will focus on Ostrava as well. So, what do we do as the CEE Startup Network? We have joint competition for early stage startups. You will hear more about the CEE Startup Voucher from my colleague Martin in a few seconds. We do organize networking and pitching events. One of them takes place today in Žilina, but we do organize several events in Ostrava. We do organize events in Wrocław, Katowice and Krakow. We focus and we try to help the startups with access to finance, and we do provide some information and consultation services regarding the access to market. And I think the finals, which is mentioned on the slide, is the final for this year CEE Startup Voucher competition. And who we are, I think Vlasto already mentioned all these 4 organizations. We are basically publicly funded innovation agencies who try to help early stage startups with help of many different consultants, supporters, and companies. So it's Innovia, MSIC, Silesian Startup Foundation, and Startup Voucher. And I think you are really looking forward to the keynote, so I will not take much more of your time. And I would like to welcome here Kristel from Czech Founders VC. And I hope I will learn how to talk and negotiate with investors when I will start my first startup.
Thank you very much. All right. Hi, my name is Ivan. I'm managing partner of Czech Founders VC. I'm ex-managing partner of their ventures. We used to be head of venture capital of the group. I also co-founded a few Montessori kindergartens, but mostly I co-founded ID businesses in the past. I think it was like 7 or 8. Most of them failed, which is the main reason why I feel entitled to talk about fails, entitled to talk about how to not do things. And as we all know, there are a few key parts that you need to have when you discuss something with an investor, and something that you need to have also in your presentation, which is an excellent bridge to other slides. This is mine. And that's it. Quick summary of what we will cover during this presentation. It's not actually like 10 mistakes of what you can do when talking with an investor. It's actually like 67 mistakes divided into 10 sort of like areas that can happen to you during talking when approaching investors. I didn't have time to put any memos in themes into my presentation, even though I wanted. This was like a quick call, so I had to do it like rough and quick. And we'll do one time control stop. I will look at Vlasto and figure out if I still have time or if I'm running late. And as we all know, we need to be brief and so on. So, quick question: how many slides do you think this presentation has? Just shout a number.
11.
80.
Okay.
How many?
80.
80. The answer is 81. So if you said 80, it was like a very good guess. So, a quick disclaimer: these are sort of like a mistake areas, reasons, notes, recommendations, but it's mostly my opinion. Okay, this is something that I want to disclose at the beginning. So let's fly through. Mistake number 1, and I don't think this is intuitive. first mistake that startups do is thinking that the investor knows what he's doing, or that his actions sort of like lead you to believe that he's not knowing what he's doing. It's still a casino. It's still venture capital. Investors are not sure what they are doing at all. Each investor is different. For example, even on our investment committee, we do have, for example, who is ex-CTO of Muse, which is like a unicorn company from Czech Republic, and he does things differently. He approaches your technology, he tries to understand it, he digs deeper into the technology, tries demos and so on. Every investor is different. I, for example, analyze dynamic on the call or on the meeting. I try to understand what is your motivation, why do you do things, and are you sort of like a lifestyle founder, or is it something that is sort of like your cause that you want to solve? Second thing is that each fund is different, and the thing that, for example, funds don't usually tell you about is that they have a life cycle. For example, it could be 8 years. So if you approach them at a sixth year of their life cycle, they are probably like in the late stage. They're looking for easy exits. They're looking for things that they can exit in 2 years. They will never tell you about this. Maybe they will not even reply to you because of it. But it's important to know that each fund is different. Each fund has its own rules. A good entrepreneur doesn't mean that he's a good investor. And it's a case that happens a lot. Usually people come to people who are good entrepreneurs and they think, okay, this guy probably knows what he's doing. He might not. He's still just an investor, and it's still a casino that he tries to do, and he tries to bet on the right number. There are a lot of VC managers that lack experience. Even VC managers that never did business. That for me is surprising, but it's true. Some VCs are overregulated. They will not tell you about this, but they might be attached to some entity that sort of like has expectations. They might meet some sort of criteria which is not public, but they have it in their thesis. They will not tell you about this, but it's their sort of like a thing that they need to cover. Non-existing deal process. Another thing that baffles me, to be honest, but there are crowdfunding sites that never do due diligence. They seem to do due diligence, they ask questions, but they are not caring too much about the answers and how correct those answers are. Complicated decision making, that's another thing that we could talk about like forever. VCs can be complicated and they will not publicly speak about it, but they might have something behind curtains that sort of make things difficult for them and makes the making of the decision difficult for them. Lacking the investment thesis is another thing that we could talk about, but it's important to understand that a VC should have an investment thesis that you should ask for. If they don't have it, they're sort of like guessing. They don't know what they're doing, they're not focusing on the things that they are good at. They're somehow trying to figure out what's best for them without having actually like a framework. Alright, mistake number 2, or area number 2, thinking investor believes your argument. And this is a very common thing that happens. We do not believe anything. We see over 1,000 projects every year, and every single one of them has an experienced founder, young, motivated team with a track record, and so we have. Try to imagine a startup that presents itself like, okay, our team is so-so. That never happened, and you need to know that you are not alone. There is thousands of other projects who believe that they are the best. If you believe you have a USP, intellectual property, product market fit, whatever you believe, we do not believe it. We need to have hard data to sort of feel that we trust the whole thought process that you were having. Sometimes startups come to us and say, like, we do not have a competition. That's something we do not believe in, and we feel like it's a mistake you should never do in front of an investor. You might have indirect competition. People might be solving it through Excel. They might be solving it differently, but there is very little probability that you do not have a competition. yeah, people will look for your solution. If you come to me and say, I have a flying carpet, I gather the know-how from Egypt, I want to sell it now, people will come to the website and buy the product. The least probable part for me from this description is that people will come to your website. You might have a flying carpet, I don't know, but people will not be probably going to your website just like, type in the URL and guessing it correctly. Assuming that people will pay for your solution, it's another thing that we do not believe in, and sometimes founders come to us and say like, okay, they will be paying for it, like this is a hard given. It's an easy thing you can demonstrate. You can create like a quick PPC campaign, like an onboarding type form that will allow you to test how much will they be willing to pay for, if they will be even willing to actually give you an email. But that's a topic on its own. We can actually discuss during the panel discussion with Bohumil. What's the best way to do the very first thing when you are actually building a product. Believing that feedback you gather is relevant. We usually do not believe this. We try to take a look on how you ask the questions when you did the survey. We try to analyze if you framed the question, if you were asking the wrong audience, if you did something different that you were not supposed to. We try to do a lot of things when we analyze, but the most important thing is that we do not believe usually the feedback that you gather from the others. Trophies. This is like a thing that happens a lot now. People believe that when they win a trophy on a startup competition, this one is different. My lawyers told me to say this. This is different for this competition, but any other competitions, I don't want to say they're not relevant. They are relevant, but they are not a proof for investors that this is an investable case. That's something that you probably should remember. Another mistake could be that you believe that we think that your predictions are correct in a business plan. We actually do not. To be honest, I personally skip the slide when it talks too much about the future and the hockey sticks and the whole business plan and how it's going to work and how it's going to turn out great for the investor and us. So this is something that we try to skip, or I personally try to skip it because it talks a lot about the future without demonstrating too much from the past. Mistake number 3, we are watching every single thing that you do when you are interacting with us. For example, I try to make people share their screen, and if I see a 15% level of your battery, it means that either you do not care about this meeting, you are a risk taker, or you already fundraised enough. You don't really need me too much in this meeting, but having a 15% battery on the meeting with an investor is sort of like a risk you're willing to take, which is fine, but in case anything happens and you are disrupted, it's probably something that will not be taken well by the investor. We watch a lot of how the founders interact in between themselves. When you share your screen, I try to figure out if I believe your computer skills. Would I be out? I think it's something that we all do. Like anybody starts to share their screen, we try to look at things, what apps they have, how practical they are when it comes to search and these kind of things. Ability to abstract. This is for me very crucial. I try to create a scenario when I tell you, for example, try to explain your product to me as if I was a 6-year-old or 12-year-old. And I try to make sure that you are able to explain what you do to any target audience, a small child, also as a very high-end, high-tech investor. Ability to use critical thinking, this should be on top. For me, this is a thing that I would put on number 1. For me, this means that you are not proving what you thought. That mostly you're trying to, dismantle of whatever it was that you were thinking. If that didn't happen, then you come to us and say like, listen, I tried my best to figure out why this could go south. I was unable to. Let's figure it out together. What could go wrong? What could be the problems? And for me, this is like a very good way of thinking how to approach investor or how to not make a mistake that you come in front of investor thinking that you do not have any problems. Ability to be quiet, a great ability to have, to know when to be quiet. Ability to adjust based on conditions. I try to change conditions a lot. For example, I might tell you, okay, I'm very sorry, but I have only 15 minutes of the meeting. It was supposed to be 30 minutes, but now we need to do it in 15. And I try to figure out if we are able to adapt in the meeting. Ability to disagree or agree, very important. Investors, do not want to invest into someone who agrees with everything, but we are super happy if someone disagrees, but there needs to be a level of your skills when it comes to present why you disagree. And this is something that we analyze a lot and try to figure out if it makes sense to us. Ability to handle uncomfortable moments. This is my key feature. My colleagues would say, if you leave our investment committee thinking that you got the investment, we did something wrong. We need to test your limits. We need to make sure that you are able to adapt to situations which are critical, they are not comfortable, but we do it not because we have high egos, but we do it because we want to know that we have a partner on the other side that we can work with, and that partner will not break during critical situations. Ability to handle meeting dynamics. If I'm quiet, you're losing me during a meeting, I want to see how you react to it. If you do not even notice, it means that I probably do not have a partner who can see and hear things during whatever he's doing. We just go on and on. Like, this is my favorite section, but this will be like way too long for this 25 minutes that I have. And but trust me, I would have like maybe 50 more that we try to analyze anytime we meet startups. Mistake number 4. Thinking that your personality is a problem. It is not. Like, it doesn't have rules. For example, I personally love CTOs that are turned to CEOs. Some people might not, but I love them in some cases. Some people think that they are too old to create a startup. Last time I've seen statistics that actually 35 plus is the best age to start a startup, so it's definitely not the case that you need to be young and whatever in order to be a startup. Just a quick break. Actually, I like it. It's like an elevator music.
It's changing conditions.
Yeah, thank you. That's the that I was talking about. Right. Some people think that because they are lonely wolf, it's a problem. Actually, like I think Lex Friedman had a podcast with a guy who was like a lonely wolf, created 7 different startups, always bootstrapping. And he was doing it for the past 7 years, super successful, super interesting person to watch on Twitter. It doesn't have to be a problem that you're a lonely wolf, that you don't even have a team. Or for example, that you are a networker without actually being the one who is able to coach, for example. Also, you might have issues at home, that's fine. We can work around it, or we can discuss it. This will be a partnership that needs to be open. And I did have some instances when they were telling me, like, listen, I'm going through a rough time now, I don't think it's fair to start a business now. There will always be a rough time. There will always be problems, not just at home, but also you might create some problems at home because of what you do in your startup. So this is something that, for me, it's best to stay open about it, talk about it, and figure out how to move forward. it doesn't necessarily have to be a problem. ADHD, dyslexia, dyspraxia, whatever you have, we don't care. There are still super interesting and super successful people that have this and they are able to go on. Startup roles can be quite inclusive. It doesn't have to be a problem. If you feel that there is something wrong with you, you don't have to feel that way. Mistake number 5. Thinking that your personality is not a problem. Okay, I know I said something different a couple of minutes ago. And actually, like all of the things that I said actually could be a problem. Depends on the situation, depends on your personality, depends on how we feel, our personal feeling from the whole scenario or situation that we created. It could and could not be a problem of whatever personality you have. Quick time check. Do we have a last second picture of me now? I'm trying to figure out if I still have time. Do I have time? Are we on time? Are we good? We'll see. We're in the middle, that's what I'm asking. Mistake number 6. Getting in touch with the VC, but in a way that you try to approach the highest ranked officer. Most of the startups think that this will speed things up, and it might, but in my personal experience, it doesn't have to. General partners, managing partners are very busy. They are not too organized, and for example, I don't know anybody from VCs that actually have assistants. So we are messy. Our time schedule is messy, our calendar is messy. We might forget. It's not the best way to approach someone who is super busy and is allowed to make mistakes. This is interesting to know. Analysts are those who try not to make mistakes because they will have to somehow figure out how to explain it to the managing partner that they missed an opportunity, they were not willing to participate in a meeting and so on. It's the best way to not skip the process because that way you're following the chain of command and you might avoid actually being forgotten or being ghosted by a managing partner because he simply forgot or doesn't have the time. We automate a lot. For example, in our VC, we try to automate the initial feedback. If you are not covering the thesis that we do, we try to use ChatGPT in order to give you feedback. This is not for us. We try to encourage you to join the community and so on, but this is actually important to know that some VCs are actually doing the first step automatically. And if you skip that first step, you might not be in the process. You might not join the pipeline correctly. You might not be put an assistant correctly, and so on. We don't need to fall in love with your project. If I fell in love with the project and I try to explain it to the others from our VC fund, it's like my mom telling me about a potential partner that she knows because it's a daughter of her colleague. It's like you are not able to fall in love with this way. You need to fall in love with it on your own. And the best way is to follow the chain of command in order for the others to have the ability to follow the system that was created in order for the managing partners to fall in love with your project. A quick commercial break. We do acceleration in founders, so I know I do a lot of hate and things you should not do, but we try to help a lot as well. And we do have a 3 months intensive program that you are able to join and gather know-how from our network, from our investors, from people who have failed, but people who have succeeded in the past. This is a tough one to explain. Mistake number 7, thinking from founder's perspective. It's fine, but remember you are asking money from someone who has his own decision-making process. It's not like I don't want to say this, it's not like he cares too much. He's a very selfish investor. He needs to cover his needs because he's the one who makes the decision if he sends money or doesn't send the money. And mostly this falls down to he needs to understand what is your customer acquisition cost versus what is the lifetime value of what you create. This is for me as an investor, the most important part that allows me to figure out if this is scalable, if this makes sense, if it has a product market fit, if it has traction, and if we input some money into it, what will happen from it. Build a relationship. This is important. Like, it's great to create, for example, newsletters in fundraising. Include the investor, or maybe even try to approach the investor 3 months ahead and say, like, listen, I want to fundraise in 3 months. I want to approach you then. What will be important for you then? What are the KPIs that you want to see in my project in 3 months? And then inform every month. We are on track, we are doing great, we are not doing great. Don't forget investors have egos. They might be tricky to talk to, but they usually are super proud of what they do, and you need to be sometimes careful of how to approach them because they do have a tendency of thinking of themselves too high, to be honest. Also, we need to figure out, or it's your goal, in my opinion, to try to address the investor's thinking process when fundraising. We do not think just about this round. We try to invest into things that have a future. In order for us to figure out if it has a future, we need to figure out what will happen next. Who is after us? What will be the criteria in your vertical that will be important not in this funding, but in the next funding? Because that's something that we need to have as investors answers to before we continue in the investment process. What is your exit strategy? You don't have to one. You don't have to have one. I mean, investors usually like to see one, but it's great to at least have a thought process around it. Try to answer this as honestly as you can, and try to help the investor. This is the pattern that happened in different industry, and I'm trying to use a similar pattern in what I do. FAQs in that term are a way of actually trying to cover the investor's thought process. It allows you to actually discover if the investor has read your pitch deck, if they are asking the same question, update the data room, update the place where you talk with the investor with your numbers and proposal and so on, and try to demonstrate that you are able to think about the FAQs. What are the important things that the investors ask, not the important things that I want to answer as a strategist. Mistake number 8, no fundraising strategy. Yeah, not all VCs are equal. This is like tough to explain, but I personally recommend to startups to actually make tiers of investors. Some of them try to do hot intro from someone. Some of them is best to approach them via LinkedIn, some of them are not worth it. They might not be the best fit for you. Try to automate things. In my opinion, the best way is to combine all these kind of things and try to figure out in the whole ecosystem who is the best VC for you and who is not, and you can basically put them in a category where you have to automate things when communicating with them. So start with those you don't want investment from. In the middle, try to convert a leading investor and create a funnel. Investors have egos and they do react to push. If you come and say, like, listen, the whole fundraising is done, but we still like you, give us better terms, but do it in 1 week or 2 weeks, and we will be able to cover you or include you in this round, that could work actually on the investor. Mistake number 9, thinking the fundraising process will be over in 1 or 2 months. It can, but in my experience, it's not. It can take from 2 weeks to 2 years. Not having a data room place where you actually update things is a problem, because, for example, I take a look on the pitch deck and I see that you had a timeline, and I take a look where we are on the timeline, and I check if that is actually the status quo. And then you will have to explain to us, like, why the timeline moved, why you are not so successful with the fundraising, why it takes so long. So try to do a data room that you can actually update without sending updated or pitch decks that are not actual for now. You need to save energy. For fundraising, don't forget about your business. You still have a business to run, and the best way to convince an investor during the fundraising process is to actually keep him looped and tell him, like, listen, we are still doing business and we are doing great, so you better rush in. You still have 2 weeks or 1 week, but you need to move on if you want to get on board on this successful business. My recommendation is to please include other team members as well. You need energy, and you need to make sure that you are able to cover things for the period of maybe 4 months, 5 months, and that takes toll if you are the only one doing it. And mistake number 10, and I'm looking at faces if they are nervous or not, because I might be running over time, but don't worry, we are at the end. Don't forget the basics. Like the basics are very important. Use critical thinking in everything you do. Be on time, be human, don't lie, ever. We all have our own ways how to figure out if a startup lied. But if it happens, trust me, the other VCs will know it. We do, for example, communicate with each other as VCs. We try to figure out like who lied, who did a bad job, and that's like a bad mark on you as a founder that will be there forever. People will remember these kind of things. Same time, think one step ahead. For example, if someone creates an event in my calendar, you try to figure out how to name the event from the other's perspective. So, creating an event that will say like, Paolo and Ivan are meeting, I don't know who is Paolo. I probably forgot. Remember, we're seeing a lot of opportunities every single year, and maybe to put a name of your startup, to include, for example, some credentials, some info in the meeting, what do you expect from the meeting, some agenda. Try to think about it from the other perspective as well. This helps a lot and it saves time, not just for you, but for the others. Be yourself. Again, this for me is like a basic that is forgotten a lot, but I do think it's important to be yourself all the time. And practice makes perfect. I failed so many times. Every other therapist that you probably know of failed even more. So it's important to never give up and basically practice whatever you do. Maybe the 10th time it will be the lucky one. Thank you very much. That's it from me. Alright, before we move on, I guess the whole presentation was a lot talking about what you do wrong, and it might sound that this is all we do as VCs, but it's not. We try to help a lot during the whole process of you building your startup, and we are not the only one. There are also other instruments that you can use, and that's actually what we will discuss. That's why I kind of would like to invite Dan on stage, who's typing now, but will join me soon, and we are happy to discuss how to help you out in many different shapes and forms of funding.
Ivan, thanks for the presentation. Hopefully you learned something. And just my curiosity, will this presentation be later shared with the audience? Okay, perfect. So I'm looking forward to go through the decks individually because there was a lot of learning. And let me welcome on stage also Ivan Filus and Bohumil Pokštefl, which will join the panel discussion. You know, to self-serve us with the tables. Thank you. Let's do this one. And now is the time for starting the panel discussion. First, I encourage you to use Slido, and I will open it as well for myself to see the questions. And what is the most popular funding scheme? Ponzi scheme, of course, right? That's not right. And it's a good question for our panelists. I should be here because nobody sees me. You're important. You have to be on the stream. So, I will first introduce shortly the format. Like, we have quite plenty of time for this panel, and we want to leverage it really good, considering we have here 3 experts, each of from a slightly different perspective of how to fund, raise your business. We want to leverage their wisdom and offer you an opportunity if you are a startup and you're sitting here in the audience, or you're watching throughout the stream. Please describe your project or business through Slido, and in the end we pick one of the submitted ideas, and we can do a sort of like analysis from the perspective of 2 Ivans and 1 Bohuš. What is the right way how to fund that kind of startup? So please describe your ideas. Describe what is your business project about. Where are you right now? And what do you need within the next year or 2? A little bit. If not, we will just talk. Good. Perfect. So, gentlemen, thanks for having you on the stage, and I would like to ask you for a short introduction of yourselves and the perspective of which capital instruments you represent here, sort of. And let's start with Ivan, our first Ivan. As you already mentioned your background a little bit when doing your presentation. So, who are you, and what are the capital instruments you are most experienced with?
Yeah, I don't want to repeat myself too much. So I'm Ivan, managing partner of Funders VC. I guess what's relevant from my background is the part where I did a lot of businesses when I failed, because I tried to make sure that we are the only founders who are there. We try to bootstrap a lot. And right now I actually represent the other opinion here in this panel discussion. I do feel that the VC funding that I'm here to take a flag for is very relevant and good for you if the VC is good. And I guess I don't want to talk too much about other VCs, and I mostly want to focus on what we do and what we do differently. And I guess the most important part is maybe explained best by how we do due diligence. We do not do a due diligence process as other VCs. We are a community-driven VC, which is based on 45 super entrepreneurs who have a super vast network behind them. And this is something that happened to me in the past, that I was thinking that I can cover it on my own. But right now, I try to present the case when you are able to get not just the funding, but even during the due diligence process, when we try to figure out if we are able to invest, we try to also figure out if we are able to help, if we have in our network someone who knows what are the good questions to ask during the due diligence process, and maybe at a later stage become a mentor of your startup. So I represent VC funding, but I want to specify that I want to present VC funding that is oriented on founders and how to help them with the instruments that we have, with the network that we have, and with the experience and fails that we did in the past.
Thanks, Ivan. In the opening presentation covering the CEE region, there was a mention that there is like 26 or 29 thousands of startups somehow like in evidence, and only 7,000 of them is VC founded, which is like a 1/4, right? And Bohuš and Ivan, they represent probably because the other businesses have to be burning, using some money for the growth. So Bohuš, what's your approach, and what is the funding strategy or path that you are going to represent in this panel?
All right, thanks for having me. Actually, I was kind of surprised by the number. It's only 1/4.
Yeah, me as well. I expected more.
I was surprised it's too much.
Okay.
What you're saying is like every fourth startup deserves a funding, which for me is not the case.
I don't agree. I think that okay. Let's start with an introduction. I'm glad we are already in a good mood. I'll start with my background. I was always having this entrepreneurial mindset. I'm not a technical. I can't code. I was trying to learn, but I can't code a single line. I failed a lot during my university times. It was probably the most creative and active time when I was trying to build something. And then after university, I got involved in a startup called Contentino, which is technically a spin-off of an advertising agency, meaning that they started an internal project and they figured out maybe some other businesses and other agencies might like this tool, this software they were building. So I got involved in this business. I built a company from basically zero, and it was bootstrap, meaning it was self-funded. We never had external capital. We started to be profitable very quickly. The break-even point came after 1.5 years after I got involved. And even though we haven't got the external funding, we became like one of the fastest growing tech companies in CEE 2 times in a row. So it was quite a good ride. So that's where the base or my bootstrap mindset comes from. And right now, I'm having with my partner SaaS Garden, which is a studio focused on building software as a service bootstrap company. So we don't aim to become a unicorn, so we don't aim to exit. We aim to be building profitable and sustainable businesses. And on the side of it, and maybe I will talk about it later, I have an agency which is focused on LinkedIn social selling. So we are building LinkedIn for the CEOs and creating business opportunities on LinkedIn. So that's my stance.
Yeah. Thanks, Bohuš. Ivan, as last but not the least, you're pretty much into the public funding, right? So please explain the audience briefly your background and the high-level overview of what is possible to get from the state or different institutions.
Yeah, in this conversation, 1 second. My name is Filus, and I'm working for more than 2 decades supporting innovative businesses, and probably in the last 10 years supporting technology-based startups or deep tech startups. And I'm wearing several hats to do so. I'm cooperating with Innovation Center, with the Moderator Innovation Center in Ostrava, with Business Innovation Center in Bratislava. I'm also the national contact point for Slovak Republic for European Innovation Council and European Innovation Ecosystem, and also working very closely with the Ministry of Economy of the Slovak Republic in preparation of the funding schemes for technology startups, both vouchers and grant schemes. But I'm not only focused on the public funding or grants only, but I would broaden it up a little bit to public support, which is not only the grants, but I will talk mostly about the grants, but it's also a new combined funding mechanisms, combining, for example, grants with loan or grants with investment, which are very important, especially for technology-based startups in their development. And of course, I try to help startups with getting access to services that are somehow subsidized and that can help
in their innovation efforts, going international and going to bound markets. So basically, I'm trying to help the technology startups to get any kind of public support that can move them more forward to the market.
Perfect. Perfect. Thanks a lot. Guys, now we know who sits in the panel. How about the audience? Is there someone who has experience with VC funding? So to say you are a startup enterprise and you got an investment round from VCs. Raise your hand. No startups or shy startups. All there in the background payout. I see. Two startups there. How about public schemes, grants, or other form of loans from state or state institutions? Did anyone of you have experience and was successful in applying to such? There are like two, great. And how about bootstrapping? Is there some business who bootstrapped? Perfect, two. Great. So,
what about the rest? Is it still pre-funded stage?
Just came for coffee.
Yeah. But good question. Good question. But I mean, like this represents roughly also the number, the 1/4, right? The distribution in the audience, although the sample is small, but it's like one VC funding, and then there is some experience with bootstrapping. There is some experience with public funding. So before going to next questions, guys, I remind you to use the opportunity to ask questions through Slido or to define your startup case or business case through Slido, and be prepared. So, guys, now there is little time for the fight. Yeah. So, if you would describe the reasons to use your preferred capital instruments, the pros, what would it be? Let's start even with you. When is the suitable time to take all the VC money? What condition your startup must meet or your business?
Yeah, I'll try to be brief. Like the pros are simple. You're not using your own money. You're using someone else's money to cover your business or to boost your business. If a VC is good, you are able to use their network and you are able to find a partner on the way who is able to help on many different levels. On a mental level, the VC is actually able to provide mental health support when you need it. You are able to get a network, and I think I mentioned it in the beginning. This is the most important part that, in my opinion, you should look for when looking for a VC investor. And this is, in my opinion, the biggest pro of what we can add to your business without you having to risk, for example, or your own life savings.
Okay, this is quite clear. Still, like there are different types of money one can get from VC, right? You can also get like a VC debt, where you do not exchange your equity for the
Yes, but that's usually like a VC debt. In what I've heard from my experiences, usually is attached to like a 16% interest rate.
Okay.
It could be like cumulative. You can get like a convertible loan that you can actually repay if you want to, but it's not usually the case that the investor wants to, for example, see. You could get an equity investment. So there are different types of instruments, but for me that's mostly a technicality. And also, you can get it at a different stage. There are VCs focused on, let's say, seed but for me, like the definition of pre-seed and seed is like very vague and I'm lost in it sometimes. So this is technicality. The most important part is like what is the added value behind the money, and that for me is. And actually, let's get to it. Like let's not talk about just the cons. I think the important thing is that you get a partner that is, for example, with a background. In most cases, I think I mentioned in my presentation that it's not always the case, but in most cases you get a partner that actually has done a business before. He's not an institution that will tell you what to do. He will not create reporting that is like horrible, and he will not validate an idea that doesn't make sense to even him, just because you covered some criteria that some big institutions said are important. So for me, this is me talking about pros of venture funding, and but yes, obviously you have some cons as well. But that's probably a topic for discussion from the others.
Or later. You made quite a, hard to say, nice bridge, but it was a bridge to Ivan Filus, because if we speak about the network advantage, the experience advantage, that the topic is validated, I guess like this is somehow examined in the public applications or applications to public to get funding through public instruments as well, right? So I guess you personally mentioned that you are helping or working, collaborating with a what was the type of agency?
Well, there's a different type of agency, but
Yeah.
let's make it simpler. I work with.
And that sounds to me as a network as well.
Yeah, sure. Yeah. So maybe I will come back to this. I will start to answering same direction as Ivan first, and then let me just maybe summarize a couple of these advantages why the early stage startup should think about the public support of grants for easy understanding. Well, first of all, it's comparing to VC is not dilutive money. So the founders doesn't need to give away their shares. So in fact, those money in form of grants can give them a possibility to focus on innovation or the product development and prepare them to be stronger maybe for the first round. But it's not only before the first round, but also it's again after the first round or in preparation for later stages and or combining with the VC. And then I would say the second very important issue is that they are lowering risks for the next round of investment and gaining some kind of recognition, because usually there is some evaluation process and done usually by the experts that know what is the state of the art in specific kind of technology or the market field. So it's easier for them maybe to approach the VCs with having grants that was before. And of course, it's a lot about networking, because it's not only the money. The funding agencies or innovation centers or whoever gives this kind of support, it's combined with set of services that help the SMEs or startups to get specific knowledge in various fields. So it's kind of combination, and this is, for my opinion, very important, especially in the early stage.
Yeah. Innovation center was the word I was looking for. Thanks, Ivan. And we speak about the bootstrapping approach. Bosch, are you alone there? Do you have any network? Do you have any support? How does it work in that world, and how can you basically cope with having access to similar advantages that guys described?
Well, I will be talking later also about disadvantages of bootstrapping, but the advantages are simple. Like you have freedom, you don't dilute, so you keep 100% of your equity. You are not forced to exit because one, you can prove me wrong, but once you take VC money, there is only one way, one end goal, and that's to be acquired or to go IPO. Or if shit hits the fan, which is the majority of startups taking VC, well, after you run out of cash, you're done. So the advantage of Bootstrap is that you are building a more sustainable business machine than when you are just hoping to get another round. And let's face it, like in our region, what's the percentage of startups which got the A round? We are just seeing startups here getting seeds and pre-seeds, but it's very hard to build a company which at the end gets the A round or getting exited. So these are the advantages. Then you have some studios. Actually, there is what I would like to encourage, and I'm kind of bridging to the disadvantages, is that at the beginning, being a bootstrap founder, it's very hard because you don't have a financial mechanism. You are having family, friends, and fools, your own money, or you are feeding the startup from another business of your own. And I know many examples, including myself, or feeding the cash cow businesses into the startups. But later I've seen, and it was not so common, that there's more angel investors who believe in the bootstrap way. Because a lot of angel investors, they were hoping that, okay, I'll give you the investment, and then, okay, we're going to go this VC route. But there are a couple of examples. Vlasto himself, he believes in bootstrap in some way. They just recently had a new fund where they are helping or they are looking for startups which can be profitable and sustainable. So there are already some financial mechanisms, then being just a lone wolf.
Yeah, I think like one thing that I think goes wrong with bootstrapping, I think it makes you the toughest person you can be. With VC money, you're sort of like I do remember the feeling when you are not sure if you will have the money to pay the salaries, and that feeling cannot be replicated. And if you are someone who is managing someone else's money, you can never like compare these two feelings. And I think like that's important to say. Like when you're bootstrapping, when you get out of it, like you will be able to survive a lot of things, in my opinion. But you might be slow as well.
That's another disadvantage. I agree. The beginnings are very, very slow.
I guess it's especially the case in Slovakia. We are such a small market that usually what happens, you try to leverage like the added value that you have or the USP or the know-how that you have, and it's usually know-how attached to a region or some insight that you are using. And I guess like when you make a mark in Slovakia, it's still nothing compared to startups who are starting in Germany or they are starting in the USA. And that's why this could be a tough part of your business. If you're bootstrapping from a small region that is building on insights that are local, this could be a tough one for you to survive when you try to expand, or when you try to expand like in a good time and in a good state of your company.
How does VC help with that? Like with expansion, like I don't see a correlation between being bootstrapped and having VC funding when you're expanding, other than having the cash to expand.
You have the cash to expand. I mean, but apart from cash, you also, I guess like I should start by saying that I presented like the VC case that we are awesome and we are able to help with the network. We can be assholes as well. Let's say that as well. And I think you mentioned it a bit. The push on exit can happen. Like if you have a bad reserve matters or like a bad documentation or a bad deal with the VC, it can happen, and then it could be the case. So, and also it could be a VC that is like micromanaging things and making you do like a lot of reporting that is like irrelevant for the business, but it's just relevant for them or whatever is behind it. So there is a lot of like negatives or cons that are attached to VC world as well. But I want to present the case that I feel that is relevant from our perspective as a community-driven VC, which adds value when you are trying to expand with founders who already did it in the past. For example, you are trying to build a distribution in Germany. I can connect you to 2 people from our investors who exited the company that was focused on creating a distribution in Germany. Are you trying to find an investor in the USA? We have 10 investors who fundraise in the USA. So the network and the connection can be an added value that can help you a lot when you're trying to expand. And in my opinion, that is something that you might be able to get through bootstrapping, but this can fast forward your project.
Guys, to me, as Bohumil, you wanted to say something?
I just wanted to react, like, maybe it's in your case that you are well connected and you can make the connection that's the added value in VC, and most of the VCs are saying that that's the smart money mess, if I could use this word, but in reality, no, it's just cash. The smart money, especially in our region, this is my opinion, don't get offended please, but I don't think that we have smart money VCs in our region. There are some exceptions, of course.
Yeah, you're right. I guess it's a topic that is not too often discussed, but I think it's true and it's a fair statement. But then again, like I try to make it relevant for the audience and I try to figure out like what would I do if I were in their shoes. And the truth is that we are now having a discussion that we need to somehow figure out like who is a good VC and a bad VC. But that is true. But then when you are a founder who needs funding, you need, I don't know, 300K to boost your business or to make it happen, and you get an offer from that VC, you still take it. Because that's the reality of your days. And I guess there is some help that you can get when it comes to like fundraising and trying to create some sort of timeline that allows you to have a window for a better VC and replace that VC. But I understand this is like easy to say, find a good VC, and you're right that it doesn't have to be the case, it doesn't necessarily is the case, and it almost, I don't want to say almost never is the case here, but it's difficult to find such investor in this region. There's not too many VCs who are able to provide such support, you're right.
Sure.
And maybe I would like to add, maybe for further discussion that, for example, VC and the public funding, so this is not like black and white or 2 separate rooms that the founder has to decide one or the other. And usually they're in combination, having grants and preparing for the investment round and having investment round and combining with the grants and so on, because we have a lot of experiences, and if we are talking to early stage startups, it's very important to mention this, that it's a combination of resources for development of the company, of the product, and going to the market. And we know a lot of we know some startups that we call them like grant tourists, so they are walking in circles with grants and never go, for example, for financial rounds, and we know that they cannot succeed. Okay. So this is very important, that this is the mix of the financial opportunities that startup has to think about, so not just black and white.
How is possible that if you know that they cannot succeed, that they get the money from grants?
Well, there's a lot of grant schemes. There's a lot of small grant schemes that are managed separately by the specific institutions, and maybe they don't have the full picture. So maybe some startup or business plan may shine for them, but they don't have traction, but they don't see. It's about not exactly about lying, but about the presentation of themselves that will may be sufficient for that type of grants. But in the long run, it's way better.
I see. Well, you know, each system has some kind of benefitability that's natural. But going back to your discussion, guys, like VC versus bootstrapping, what you mentioned, like friends, 3F, family, fools, friends, and you know, several different types, which to me, from a very naive perspective, it looked like you are still trading some part of your company for some loan or debt, which you eventually pay back, or you give the people some kind of share or ownership. So what's the difference there? You know, like.
I mean, when you're bootstrapping, you can take loan, you can take a grant, right? It's the meaning of bootstrap is that you are somehow self-funded and you are not going for venture capital money. That's my understanding of bootstrapping. So I don't see there this trade-off. Yeah, it's a risk. Like if you don't have your own funds, you need to get those funds somewhere, and those are the options. Like friends, family, and fools, loan, start a business which will make you the cash, or go for a grant. But this is actually I have a lot of questions about these grant schemes because I was trying to get some grants, but for me it was so confusing, so hard to understand. I got a feeling that okay, maybe we are definitely not a fit for a grant, and maybe this is something, maybe not now, but this is something I would definitely like to know more, like for what types of startups and founders are these grants meant for, and where can I find them? Because if I want VC, and for me it's so easy to find all these VCs in our region. It's pretty well. You just ask around with any networking. But for grants, it's very new topic. Maybe not new, but I don't think that there's a lot of startup events where we talk about grant schemes.
When we've been preparing for the discussion, Ivan mentioned that people fear these instruments, and in relation also to Ivan, we mentioned that some VCs can have like excessive reporting schemes, etc. I believe that people fear even more this in public sector funding because the prejudice is originally that the public money and the processes related to it are very rigid and maybe regulated. So I guess it's the right time, Bohuš. You nailed it. Let's go. Let's do a dive deep into public money and why people fear them and how to be successful in those applications.
And it is really for anyone, right?
No, it's not for anyone.
Not for both.
We should go a little bit deeper on the purpose.
Bohuš, you can describe your business case and then you can analyze it at the end.
But maybe before that, I will try to answer your question from both of you. I have to admit that yes, for founders it's a mess. Yeah, it's so many grants, so many granting bodies, including the local, regional, national, European programs, or the international organization working in the area. So there is a huge complicated network or ecosystem of grant. I can believe, and of course the founders or the people that are working in startups, usually few of them, they don't have time for this. So, and that's why it is very important to talk to, for example, the regional bodies or regional organizations like here, like MSIC in Austria, because they, or on the national level, so because they have the expert. What we are doing with startups, that for example, a startup came to me and they said, okay, I have this plan, this is my vision, this is what I'm going, this is what I want to achieve in the next 3 years, and these are the concrete actions that I need to get funding for. So, and we are discussing, okay, so if there is a room for public funding, so let's go for it, but not in every case. Because if you are very close to market or you're not both innovative enough or you are not excellent in, for example, from technology point of view, then it might be difficult to get funding. So maybe if startups start to think why they should get funding from grants, they should answer where is the uniqueness of their product. Am I disrupting the market? Am I offering something new to my potential clients? The first, then usually the granting bodies, they are not the competitors of the VC funds or the banks. So they need to answer the question: okay, is there the market failure? For example, if there are technology startups that are in the research phase, so normally they are not case for the VCs yet because they don't have a product yet, they don't have approval from the customers, so it would be very difficult for them to go directly to the VCs. So for those, if there is a kind of market failure or specific public interest, like for example social stuff, so this can be funded by grants in general.
Yeah, if I may add to both questions, like the thing that confuses me a lot, or maybe I will say it this way, for me, like the public money is usually like financial advisors. Like in my opinion, financial advisors are like those people who were like classmates with, and then they ask you like, can we go for a coffee? And you know that there is something going on. So for me, that's an idea that works great on the paper. I would love to have a financial advisor, but for me the problem is that it never works. Like I don't trust those people. For me, it's like I feel they know 5% more than me, but they're playing the smarty pants here and so on. But that sort of reminds me of like the whole scheme of the public funding. And for me, like something that I didn't understand, that is attached to the point that I was making earlier, is that I do believe that there are agencies who are able to help you out to get public funding, and they usually take, and correct me if I'm wrong, 5% for the management of the reporting. That is like, is that the scenario usually?
It depends. It depends on the funding instrument. It depends.
Okay.
Yeah. It might be one of the business model from the consulting companies.
And when I tried to dig deeper, it looked like it's worth the 5%. The company that is actually managing the reporting is actually like they are doing a lot of things. But for me, 5% of the whole budget, like a 50K from 0.1 million, like that's too much just to have for reporting. That's when it becomes like for me, that's a proof that it's like too complicated. But I would be happy if you could explain to us that I'm not correct in all cases, and that is not the case. You are able to do it if you are a startup in a better way.
Yeah, you are correct in some initiatives, especially on the national level. If we're speaking about the umbrella structural funds or now the recovery and resilience plan, especially about bigger projects, so 1 million plus. So unfortunately, on the local level, both I think it's the same in general with Slovakia or Poland and all the Central Europe, that those instruments are very complicated. So in that case, the consulting company or external help, let's say, is might really help the company not to fail in administrative preparation of the project, because it's very complicated, I have to admit. It's a problem, really problem. And then also in the reporting, because as the situation is now, and probably it's not changing, so you would need like one full-time equivalent of work, effort, of your internal staff anyhow for the whole duration. So it's more or less the 5%. So but if this is a good consulting company, you are more or less sure that it will be correct. Yeah. So this is unfortunately these national grants. They are trying to change, and they are really trying. Well, I'm not talking about our Ministry of Economy, that they are trying to simplify the rules. They are trying to include or introduce the lump sum, so not every cent will be checked, but there will be the lump sum dedicated for the deliverable. So you are delivering a milestone, and then you are going to page and only the results are checking, but now this is not the situation yet. But from the European perspective, especially the funding coming from the European Commission, like Horizon Europe or the other programs that are also for startups, we are talking now about small projects of let's say 50 to 150,000 euros under the umbrella of Cascade funding, for example. So this is very simple. They are usually like you need 2 days. You can do it long. There are like 2 days for 2 to 5 days for preparation of the project, and then if you succeed, so this is you are delivering the results of everything. So this is very easy. And we have also bigger grants, like for example the ICI Accelerator. This is European Innovation Council initiative that you can request funding up to 17 million euros. It's combination of grants and equity, and this is a little bit more complicated, but not like maybe like 10% of what is requested on the national.
Sorry, I have a quick question. Like, if I were a startup, where can I find like a simple explanation of how the public money is accessible to me? Like you know, like as if really I was a 6-year-old and I would enter a website and like this scheme, like too much reporting, too little money, not worth your time. Go for this instrument, like, and you can take a look, like these are types of instruments. Where can I find it? Is there a way? I mean, I probably should get like a figure because probably people will get to you and ask you. But is there something that actually summarizes it for startups, or?
I'm not aware of any single entry point or source of all funding mechanisms for startups explaining the level of complexity or so because they are provided by different organizations, and unfortunately the different organizations have different rules. So, so it is really important to approach, for example, the innovation centers in the region. So they are there, and both in Žilina or Pokštefl, we are the specific experts working just with startups. So we have knowledge, so we can talk to them and say, okay, this is what you are going to do, and well, these are the right solution. Grant or VC or any type of products.
Yeah, thank you. I just had a business idea.
Great. Guys, this is good topic, and we know roughly what's the price to pay for getting the public money. By the way, Innovia is the innovation center from Žilina, if you don't know. They have the roll-up there. But of course, like, signing some safe agreement or getting convertible notes or like the VC money, it also carries some complexity and legal cost at least. So how complex is this? How costly is it to get VC money?
You know, like I guess it's a good topic, and it's one of the things that I will be shooting amongst ourselves. Actually, yesterday I had my friend asked me to review a term sheet for her that she received from a Slovakian investor, and it was written in Slovak, which is something that I'm not too used to. We do term sheets in English and according to the Czech law. I was lost in it, like twice, and I feel like sometimes VCs are using like terms that are like sound too smart, but they don't need to be. And this is something that I guess like we had some work on as well as a fund. We, for example, after 2 years of functioning, our aim is to have a term sheet that is able to be understandable by anybody. And we still didn't make, like, for example, links to explain to you on Investopedia what each term is. But in my opinion, it's not too complicated. We make it too complicated as funds. And we talk about, like, like a put option, right of first refusal, drag along, liquidation preference. And these are the terms that are like, if you are from the world, you understand them, it's not too complicated for you, but if you are not, you somehow feel that, okay, I probably don't belong here, which is our fault, in my opinion. And we do our best at Czech Founders to create term sheets and contracts that are easy to understand. but it's a work that we need to do, and you're right that it can get complicated, but in my opinion, it's okay to ask. It's okay to ask the investor, listen, I don't understand, why does it have to be so complicated? What do you want? What are your fears? What is your motivation behind this clause? And maybe we can define it in an easier way. For me, that's, if I got this question or if I got this request, I would approach it as if it was like a very valid request, because I feel that our language should not be the language of the world. We should adapt to the regular people who want to do businesses without knowing all the things that we feel that we should know.
Yeah, I see. If I know it's very hard to generalize, but let's say you had some kind of financing for some amount of money, how much legal hours did it eat on the side of the startup? If you maybe you have some specific case from near past.
We have actually, I can tell you the exact numbers. In each transaction, we have a 5K for the cost of the all due diligence, which should include, for example, a PPC specialist that analyzes your business when it comes to unit economics, a software developer that analyzes quality of your code, but also a legal counsel. We try to do like below 2K on each transaction, but let's not forget we are a pre-seed fund focused on very early stage. We do a founder-friendly documentation that is on a template base. We want to offer like same set of rules for all the founders, and this allows us to have like a lower fees. But I know that some VCs they are expecting, for example, to have 10K costs on the transaction. What it means for the founder, if I spend 5K on lawyers, you probably spend 5K on lawyers. So that's the reason why I say is that I think you can expect as a startup, if you're entering the transaction, that it might cost you 2 to 5K.
I see. By the way, when you mentioned the founders like friendly approach and template-based thing, I know it's a sort of your like uniqueness or your knowledge, but it might be a nice thing maybe to open source such things for other funds and founders.
We are working on it.
Really?
We already have.
God bless you.
Yeah, I don't think it's out, and the problem is that like we do a lot of things, and I don't want to like steal the show too much. But we do have a division that is Czech Founders Org, which focuses a lot of like helping the community and the ecosystem. And right now, I think 2 weeks ago, we did an update of the website, and one of the sections that we want to include is actually like a template documentation of what we have at Czech Founders, and we want to openly present, this is our term sheet, this is our convertible loan agreement, this is how the agreement looks when it comes to equity investment. And the reason why I say this is that it happens to me a lot that my friends who are fundraising, and they were not, for example, the case for us, they are asking me, like, the investor is telling me this is standard, like, this is normal, and I'm not sure. And I try to help them by providing like examples of other VCs, templates, and examples of what was in the documentation. And it's probably the only way to challenge the status quo of people who are telling you that, for example, I don't know, some interest on the liquidation preference that's standard, or I don't know, multiply liquidation preference, drag along that you know is not, for example, based on a simple majority. That if you want to make a sale, at least 51% of founders and 51% of investors need to agree on this decision. That for me is a standard, but it's definitely not a standard in every VC, and we need to check. We need to make sure that you are able to gather a second-hand opinion.
Okay, thanks Ivan. From the perspective of bootstrapping your business, what is the equivalent cost of securing the money and eventual, I don't know, legal reporting, if you have any of it, or this is, you're completely free of this? and you are basically saving these resources, whether it's time or direct money, to grow your business?
I believe we are completely free of this. I mean, the number one thing what you need to be focused on is make money, make sales from the very beginning, even before you have the product ready. That's the approach of every single bootstrapper or successful bootstrapper. So once your business is growing, of course, you need to have some legal documents like documentation with your employees and maybe some NDAs with your clients. But to be honest, we just Google it. We just use some templates and just simplify the documents and adjust it to our needs. Yes, I used lawyers a lot in my previous business, and it was a very complicated case. And then I used lawyers when I was trying to raise capital for the studio. They helped me out with the term sheet, and it was just they were helping me on to standardize the things and pointing out like the second opinion, because they've seen many term sheets. I trust them, so they were trying to make the term sheet which is the best or most suitable for our situation. But it's not necessary to have this kind of.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, like most of the things you mentioned is something that every growing company at a certain stage needs, independently of the source of funding. But guys, what happens when things go wrong? Like, what are the variants or your risks in case of bootstrapping, in case of public funding and grants, in case of VC money for the founders?
When you bootstrap, I think it's a little bit easier because you usually don't own money to anyone.
You switch to be funky.
You switch to be funky, you sell everything you have and try to survive, or you go bankrupt, right? It's a legal action. You can make if really something went wrong. That's about it. It's much more complicated, I believe, when you're VC funded or when you take grants. I don't know if it's also such strict, but
it depends. In grants, again, different scheme, different rules. But generally, you have to follow the rules, which may be easy, and in some cases not that easy. But but unless you fraud. So there shouldn't be that much problem, because usually the grants are for, as I mentioned, for innovation, for product development, and usually the projects are divided into certain steps, and it's a risky process, and in product development, especially in research, anything may go wrong. The market can evolve in different direction. And but if you fulfill that milestone, even if you fail in development, so that part of the grant is paid and the rest will be stopped and give back to the grant authority. But if you have a problem in for example, the reporting, and it's caused by you, it may cost you something. But it can be solved by having the assistance in this, and it's not that costly.
Okay.
I don't want to have like a long answer, but I need to understand, like, when you say when something goes wrong, you mean you lied to us or you went bankrupt?
I mean the business is not working. So that's something like Ivan, what Ivan said, that unless you don't do a fraud, I mean, like really your hypothesis was not right, or you've been not able to execute it, although you've been doing your best, so to say.
Okay. Okay, that leads us we don't have to talk about like a lot of things that VCs put in a documentation to allow them to take action if something went wrong and you lied to or you fraud. But if things go wrong, I will tell you what we do. We form like a, how to call it, like a critical management.
Crisis management.
I wouldn't call it. okay, let's put it this way. What I do is I sit down with the founder and I say, like, listen, okay, like it's not working as you thought it would be. And right now I need to understand, we are happy to help you. We are here to be your partner, to bridge through the difficult times, but we need to understand that you are a manager that is able to cover the situation. And in order to do so, we now have 3 months when you not just need to report back, but you need to also, like, for example, propose what will happen, what is the KPI that you want to achieve in following 3 months, and we want to monitor it on a bi-weekly basis, and every second week we will meet with you and ask you one simple question or two. Are you on track, and how can we help? These are the 2 things that we do, and I do have to say that right now we are doing it with 4 different companies. We have 22 companies in our portfolio, and 2 of them actually happen to get out of it because of it, because they were able to get in touch with us on a bi-weekly basis, ask for a lot of support, but also be in the position when they actually have to do promises that they are able to deliver. Because before that, we want you to be, we don't want you to micromanage. We want you to be a good manager on your own. We want to be supportive. And but I was talking now about our scenario, how we do things. But I want to be fair in how I know that things are being done in this scenario when it comes to, let's call it bad VCs. What happens or what can happen is that I, for example, as a VC can have a clause that says I need to be the one who confirms the budget. If you are not delivering the results, I don't even have any other clauses in the contract to tell you, like, you will do this, you will do that. Bad investor will come and say, okay, I'm not approving the budget, I don't like it. And if you want me to approve the budget and make this company work, you need to do this, this, and this. This is how a bad investor does it, and this is something that's why I say, like, you need to take a look on the documentation, and that's why I recommend to any startup not to take investor as someone who should, for example, approve budget. You should find or open a communication with him. What are we going to do? What is your aim? What is your motivation? How much you want to micromanage? How much you want to trust me? And how much you want to be involved in the management? And these are the tricky situations that you need to cover. But in my opinion, a good VC helps with a hand-on approach, with a focus on crisis management and support.
I see.
Yeah, I was trying to raise capital a year ago, and this was like a turn-off for me, because many term sheets from the VCs we got had this budget approval clause, and for me it was like a no-go. And I think that this should be no-go for every interview.
Okay. So to make it really easy to answer, like, there are some personal warranties. So let's say I get 200K from you, I fail, and fail fair, of course.
You know, I guess it's a fair question, but I will try to rephrase it a bit in order to make it probably more relevant for people who might be online and startupists. This is not usually the case with VC, and I love angel investors. They are usually those who understand the business, they invest when they have a passion, they want to be the one to go with you on a coffee and try to figure out how to help you. But usually this is the case with angel investors, because they are not used to regular VC transactions. They do not have 21 companies or 40 companies in their portfolio, which allows them to be sort of like a bigger risk taker, or how to say this, like rely on the probability of not every startup having to deliver. But that's what I gathered from the industry is what happens usually with angels. They hire lawyers that are not experienced in the VC world, and they create the transaction when they make the founder pay for their mistake, like very, very badly. And they don't even ask for personal guarantees. But the VC, in my opinion, usually don't do that. They usually understand that this is still a risk that I should take.
Okay, I see. Guys, we have questions on the screen. What means that there is time for questions from the audience, although me myself, I have many more questions in the panel and we could continue in the discussion for a long time. Let's go and take on the question. So, what is the expected return on the investment in the startup or for the startup and in Slovakia and in world? And I guess like that's they mean the potential upside in terms of.
Yeah, I guess it's a question for the VC world, so I will take it. This is difficult to define. Each fund has a different strategy, and I mentioned it in my keynote that VCs usually don't talk about this. They don't tell you like this is our strategy, but there is some strategy behind it, and each one of them has a different strategy. But the typical numbers are that they are expecting every 10th startup to succeed, and that startup needs to be the one that covers the other 9 and at least makes double of what you invested into those 10 startups. This is like a typical scheme. I'm not sure if I'm making sense, okay? But this is a typical scheme for the startups, but it varies. You cannot have a direct answer to this. And also, I'm not sure if there's a difference between Slovak VCs and VCs in the world. They are expecting to have a return, but they are expecting to 10% survival rate.
Okay, so isn't it like 10 times of the investment to cover the others and eventually make some money? Because double would still, as a fund, leave you in.
Yeah, but the reason why I simplify it, but that's why I don't want to ask about the direct numbers, that you have like these like areas where you define, like for example, when I talk about like 1 out of 10, I'm talking about like someone who can have a potential, for example, 100 million plus exit. But then you have, for example, I think they are called like zombies, startups that are making some money. They are not dead, but they are not something that is like super relevant for the investors. Then you have startup that made a technological exit for 10 million. And if an investor had their 10%, he gets 1 million, and that's like it's not bad, but it's not something that the investor jumps 10 meters high from. So it's sort of like difficult to answer, but the typical case is that like, or the simplified math is that 1 out of 10 is the winner, and that has to cover for the other 9, and you still are expecting to get some return for your investors.
Yeah, I see. Although you mentioned that this is a question for startup world, I'm pretty much sure, Bohumil, that when you've been starting your business, that you are bootstrapping, you had some vision of what was the scale it can grow to, right? So how it's in your case, like what do you expect to grow in terms of, I don't know, like revenue, whatever is the right metric for you?
I really don't like these questions.
Sorry.
Because this was the question I've been asked from my co-owners of the previous company, and every time we've been doing some predictions, the first 5 years we overshoot our expectations.
Okay.
So we were way too high. After 5 years, we were also continuing doing these predictions, but we undershoot. So I don't like to make, of course, everyone is trying to shoot for the stars, but we don't have a crystal ball. There's so many variables in the business which can affect you positively or negatively. I think it's good to plan for short terms, like quarterly or yearly, have some kind of idea where it can lead. But I don't know, you've seen so many startups with data predictions, even the first, and I'm wondering like how many of those can actually hit those targets 100%. So it's more of a philosophical question for me. Like how do I want to live? what kind of environment I want to create when it comes to business environment, where or internal environment in the company, like how I would like to treat my employees, what kind of salaries I would like to provide them, then if I want to support the ecosystem, the startup ecosystem, then I need to have a certain finances for that. If I want to save the world, that's another ambition, right? So it's for me, it's the return of investment doesn't apply. It's more of a philosophical question.
If I may, actually, it's a side note, so I will brief. I think there is now a trend of VCs actually buying out micro shares of founders who are successful in order for them to have a normal life. Because you are in a life situation, you want to buy a house, you want to have a normal car, you are able to, offer 2%. VCs are interested to cover this. For some VCs.
Okay.
But I think Bohumil mentioned the important part. Like if you're bootstrapping, you need to have this is in your scheme. What life do I want to have? How I want to support others, my staff, my coworkers, my family, and so on.
And I know personally bootstrappers who actually sold some shares and they're fucking rich. I'm sorry to say, but they were bootstrapped. They were not from Slovakia. But they said just sold very tiny part of the shares to, and I don't think it was VC, it was more like PE, maybe something like that. I'm not really sure. But I've seen that in the past 2 years, many bootstrappers done that and they're living a great life.
Right, I see. And even the second, how it's with public money? Like, is there any interest in terms of ROI, or there is none?
Usually, probably in majority of schemes, this is not something that the granting authority would take into account because they are not funding the commercial operation, they are funding the product development or even research. But if there is a combination of grants and investment, of course it is very important, but then it's usually like a group of investors, including the private fund. So,
Okay, I see. Thanks for the answers, guys. Let's go to the second one, which is very practical. What is the best time stage for a startup to start raising? Until when should they be bootstrapping? Like, obviously they can be bootstrapping the whole time, right?
Yes. When in Constantino, there were a certain year where literally every single VC in the region was interested in investing in us. It was the moment when we were growing super fast, we were all around the media, and we won some prizes, etc., etc. So we got a huge PR. If we would decided to go this, if the situation would be different with the other business, we might go for the VC because we've seen a lot of potential there. So yeah, the timing, if you want to try this VC round, it's when you see the demand for your business. Otherwise, go ahead.
I would disagree, but I want to let you finish. Okay, all right. I guess there are different VCs with different stages. For example, we now have an incubation program which you can enter if you don't have anything. But I want to have a discussion with you. What is your go-to-market strategy and why do you think you have a product market fit? Have you tested it? And the answer could be no, I haven't. I just have a feeling. And I might tell you, okay, can you run a quick PPC that is connected to the keywords that people are searching for when they're trying to solve a problem that you have an answer to? Are you able to create a quick type form or a website that allows you to gather at least a lead? And then tell me what was the conversion rate? How much did it cost you to acquire that email? And based on that, we are able to make decisions as VCs. We don't have to have a traction or see like a perfect traction. We just want to have reasonable answers to questions that will be asked related to how you make your business grow.
But this is not a bootstrap, you're in idea stage.
No, I'm saying that you can ask for a VC money at any stage.
Yes, that's right. And actually we could see it in the past few years that there were a lot of idea stage startups in Slovakia who got a VC money. Unfortunately, a lot of them run out of money. But yeah, it was possible. Not sure about the ecosystem environment upcoming years, but that's a different topic.
Okay. Thanks guys for answering. Question for Ivan the second now. What do you think about preparing a grant proposal with AI tools like Advisor, Grantable, Granted AI? It's cheaper than classic consultant.
Well, if you think that the role of the consultant is to write the proposal, probably you have the wrong expectation. I think that the good consultant, what is their role in the grant preparation is to be sure that the fit between the funding initiative and your business plan or your development plan are in line. Then prepare the basic arguments for the projects, for different parts, for the research, for the business case, for product validation and so on. And then it should be your role to write and then use those tools, to use them wisely, because sometimes everybody's using them, and sometimes it's very obvious and it's not the added value of the proposal when you see on the first side that it's written by AI. But I think that the role of the consultant is a little different than really write word by word the application.
I see. Okay. Let's do last two. Maybe I said before last one, but yeah, things change. How do you explain to investors that you are seeking funding for a project where monetization is far in the future? What motivates investors for money black holes? And maybe in this context, it can be interesting to understand for you as a VC, what does it mean money far in the future? You know, is it like 5 years? Is it a decade? Is it a 15 years?
Yeah. Again, we are talking about monetization in far future. Yeah, this is a tough one to explain to an investor, let's be honest. Because, I mean, right now, for example, you have a lot of funds, or a lot, I know from Czech Republic that are focused, for example, on some purpose when investing, and they are not looking just for a return, they are also looking for a mission to be accomplished within your project. So that could be one way, but regular investors, which I would put ourselves in as well, we try to see monetization as soon as possible. And to answer fairly, I think it's a difficult one to explain to investors that you will not be able to make any money for the first 2 years, 3 years, 4 years, or let's put it this way. In startup, you're not making money sometimes even until the exit. But when it comes to monetization, I understand it as a working unit economics. That acquisition of your user is relevant compared to the lifetime value that you are able to achieve with this client. If that makes sense, for me that's a monetization that makes sense, even though you might be a startup that doesn't generate any profit for 7 years. Sometimes it could be interesting to explain to the investors that, listen, but the acquirer would not be interested in monetization, they will be interested in users that I have, insights that I have about those users, access to those users, access to my technology, to my IP. You need to create an argument, who will be the exit partner, what will he buy, and why you are the one that makes sense on this road without making the monetization. But it's a tough one to explain.
I see. Bohumil, I saw that you had something to say to this.
You already explained everything. I was waiting for a moment when you say that they might buy technology. Like in medical startups, you can see that they will never have a single revenue, but their exit goal is basically to sell it to pharma, so the license.
Yeah. And the last one would be, what is the most popular funding scheme? I guess, guys, I'm leaving up to you how you approach this. Maybe you can mention an example from your, vertical, from your capital vertical. What is something that people also use?
Yeah, I would say for startup founders, the most popular funding scheme is the one that when there is a fit with what they want to do, and that there is a reasonable success rate and a reasonable expectation that they will get some money. For me personally, my personal funding scheme is European Innovation Council Accelerator, but there is so many different funding schemes for different stage of company and different areas, so it will be really difficult to name.
In my opinion, there are 3 or maybe more types of startups or businesses which deserves a different kind of funding, and we just been discussing 3 of them. Like, there are startups which definitely should take the VC money. There are startups which are not VC fundable, and they should think about this bootstrap way and trying to make a sustainable business, profitable business. There are startups, as I understand it, and this is maybe we can discuss it later, because I still didn't get the answer for what kind of businesses these grant schemes are, or maybe I misunderstood. But there are certain businesses, I believe, more high-tech businesses who needs the money for the research and development, and then therefore they should go for the grant schemes.
I will answer the way I understood the question. For us, it's the convertible loan, which allows you not to have too much of a cost for implementing an investor into your shareholder agreement and trying to figure out like all the rules that will be happening before actually knowing if the startup makes sense. And the convertible loan agreement, which is sort of like a loan that converts into equity based on some triggers that can happen. It can be time, it can be revenue, it can be new investment, it can be whatever, allows you to buy time when you don't have to cover like all the thought process attached to having an investor on board and allowing you to focus on your business. So that's why my opinion is that this is the scheme that I like the most, and we actually did it in 95% of cases of our investments.
Yeah, like perfect. And we already know the rough legal costs as we discussed it before. Guys, thank you very much. For me, I could see really passionate knowledge transfer, so to say, and sometimes a little bit heated discussion, but I enjoyed it, and I hope that the audience enjoyed it as well. Thanks for having me here. Ivan Filus, Bohumil Pokštefl, Bohumil Pokštefl, Ivan Kristel.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Let me welcome to stage Martin Mikuláš, who will come to present CEE Startup Voucher rules and partners. Martin, here you are.
Thank you so much. I'll just clear out the stage real fast. Situation in the CEE region, and we, with the CEE Startup Network, we decided to bring a big spark for it. We decided to bring about a change, and that is through the voucher. Our voucher is the culmination of our activities where we split 50,000 euros to the startups that are best and really do deserve it, right? So who are we looking for? We are looking for startups in the early phase of development. They can be in the proof of concept phase, or in the idea or first paying customer phase. The topics are not limited, however, they should be revolving around innovation, right? Primarily technological innovation. innovation, business innovation, or social innovation, if you will. You can try it, you can give it a shot, right? Yeah, the geographical area is not limited, but we would really like you guys to stay in touch with us and join events such as Funding Horizons or grab a coffee with us and keep us updated on your startup journey because we think it's good to be in touch. Last but not least, we talked about scalability and global growth potential and ambition. Right, we want our startups to reach for the skies. Right, we don't want you guys to settle for less and so on. Right. So what is it in for you? What can you get from it? So aside from 25,000 euros, 50,000 euros, and 10,000 euros in prize money, you will get access to Czech, Slovak, and Polish markets, as well as their respective representatives. Right. So you can talk to Vlasto from Innovia, you can talk to Adela or another Adela from the Moravian Silesia Innovation Center or our Polish colleagues, and they will be happy to connect you and help you with networking. Right? Our network or the voucher has a lot of matchmaking and networking opportunities, such as this one. Additionally, you will get feedback from experts, which can really help push your startup to the next level, right? Because you will get feedback from somebody who's been around the startup scene for like 10 plus years or so, right? Such as Vlasto here, for example. And then there's also visibility. We will be sure to feature the more successful startups. We'll go through the first round on our social media. Moreover, if you make it to the finals, you will be pitching in person in front of an audience of 2,000 plus people at the main Wrocław event, which is the finals. And what do you have to do for it, right? You have to submit an application, which can be surprising, right? And along with the application, we would like to see a team video so that we can get to know you on a more personal level. It doesn't have to be anything professional, right? We're just trying to see the faces behind the startup. And of course, fill in the other very forms and include your pitch deck. We are hosting our applications on the Bootgrants platform, so you have the opportunity to stop working on the application if you're tired from it or if you want to take a little break. That's fine, your progress is safe. However, I would really suggest you guys that you don't forget about it and finish it in one go. As of now, there's some applications that still need some details before they are submitted. Then it's a waiting game. You have to wait for the first round results, which is the 30th of September, and then we will go to the semifinals on the 7th of October, where you will have 30 minutes to pitch your startups to our judges or the jury online, right? And then the Wrocław, the finals, which is on the 24th of October, where you will have to come in person in order to participate and pitch in person. Right, there will be 8 of startups and we'll decide on the 3 best who deserve the prize. And that's basically it from me. Thank you all for your attention, and I will give the closing speech and a few closing remarks to Vlasto.
Thank you, Martin. I don't know, I have another slide. No slide. So I am here again to close the official part of this event, and thank you all speakers. And it was very great to share your experiences, and I hope that all startups give you this opportunity, and we will attend to our startup voucher. And I hope that all of us, all of you, will be part of our CEE startup ecosystem, and we we are here to help us in your way to be successful. So see you in Startup Wrocław on our final event, and thank you everyone.